Welcome to the Work in Progress podcast. I'm your host, Joe, and I'm here with my co host, Anton. Today, we have a special guest. We have Tanisha from Tanmar Delivery Services. How you doing today?
I'm doing good. How are you?
Good, good. Glad to have you here today.
Thank you.
We definitely want to get into all the nooks and crannies of Tanmar Delivery, but first, we want to go back and kind of get your origin story and how you got to where you are today.
Okay, great. So basically, Tanmar Delivery Services derived kind of from my other company. So my first company is Rock Solid Entertainment. So that's a music production slash event production company.
Hmm.
And so with that company, that came about because I started DJing at around 20 years old.
Okay.
So I'm 40 now. So 20 years in. But in the beginning, once you learn your craft, you want to get out there, you want to make money. And so I was looking for, at first, a manager.
Okay.
So after doing research, I was looking for a manager and nobody would really bite. Or
Mhm.
if someone did, it was like a BS deal. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So then I started looking for booking agents and it was kind of the same thing. That was actually harder to find than a manager, but I guess they didn't believe in me. I don't know what it was, but if they didn't believe, then the deal was just bad, or there just was nothing. You know what I mean? So I just decided that I would take matters in my own hands because I believed in me. And I said, I realized that if you actually have a company, a brand that you're actually pushing instead of it just being an individual, it seemed to me that the bigger you put yourself out there is the better your opportunity level.
Okay.
So I was pushing the brand. That's how I came up with Rock Solid Entertainment, got the LLC,
Mm.
made it official, and I was pushing the brand. So people are thinking that you're a whole
The whole
company.
company,
Whole
right?
time it was
It's just
just
you.
me,
Yeah.
but
Owner
nobody has to
operator.
know that,
Right.
right?
Right.
And so yeah, I just figured out how to market the business from there. And then that's how that came about. Got the leads, did like search engine optimization,
Mm.
and found other places to get leads and, word of mouth eventually and referrals, repeat business.
Mhm.
And yeah, was able to grow the company. Eventually I got into dealing with contractors because once I started DJing and doing these events, I saw that they needed photographers,
Mhm.
videographers, um, and lighting tech. So I was just like, okay, well, why not just be like somebody that does it all
Yeah.
and come in
You're
and
like
just
one
make
stop
more
shop.
money. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? So that's what I did. So I built a team around that, and then that was that. So in my 20s, so this all took place in my 20s.
Okay.
Um, Once I saw the money that
Mhm.
was being made, I was just like, oh, why would I want to work for anybody? Long term,
Yeah.
it don't make any sense. It's not
Hmm.
adding up.
Were
You
you
know
But
what
you
I
were
working a
like,
mean?
9 to 5 at the same time?
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
but you were looking at like, wow, look what I made in one day.
Right,
Like,
right,
why would I want to?
right. If I
Yeah.
could do more of this, then
Yeah.
I could walk away. You know what I mean?
Right.
So then it became because again, I was never looking at being an entrepreneur ever. It
Oh,
Hmm.
was just the fact that I wanted to DJ and
okay.
get paid
Okay.
and nobody would manage me. So then it pushed me to have to look in that direction. So that worked.
Okay.
But now it's just like, oh, okay, well, long term, I do know now I want to be an entrepreneur, but that
Yeah.
was never it.
You got a little taste of it. And you're like,
Right,
oh, this is
right.
nice.
So then it was like, okay, music is not, it's not really, events and music is not really consistent.
Hmm.
So I was just like, okay, it's good. There's times where it can make full-time income in a year doing it part-time.
Hmm.
Um, and then there's sometimes that it just does part-time in a year. You know what I mean? Either way, it's still good for what it is because it's just a couple hours here, there.
Hmm.
Or, depending on how many events. Normally when things are steady, I'm probably doing about 7 to 10 events with that
Hmm.
a month.
Okay.
Um, but yeah, so I was just like, okay, I'm not so confident about leaving um with just the music company, my
Yeah.
9 to 5. So I was just like, okay, if I start another business,
Hmm.
maybe I can do that, but let me look at something that's consistent.
Okay.
So it was the daycare that I looked into, and then the delivery company.
Okay.
So
But
daycare first.
backing up real quick.
Yes.
What was your 9 to 5? What were you doing on the daily in between gigs?
So at the time when I was looking, well, that was later. That was in
So it was a couple of
my late 20s to
different jobs.
early 30s. Yeah. It was a couple jobs.
Couple
Gotcha.
You're
Gotcha.
young,
Yeah.
you
You
out there
hopping.
just trying to figure it out. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? Trying to find
Yeah.
yourself. You don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So at the time that I figured out I wanted to be an entrepreneur, I'm not sure exactly where
Yeah.
I was.
It's at the back of your mind now.
But
You're like,
it was a
But when
job
I
you didn't want to be
left,
at.
yeah, there you
I
go.
was working as a pharmacy tech.
Okay.
Yeah, for a radiology company.
Okay.
I guess you wasn't fond of that, right?
Huh?
You wasn't fond of being in that field.
It's not what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
It was just money,
It paid,
you know,
yeah,
for
paid the
them.
bills.
Yeah.
Right. Cause I didn't finish college. I dropped out
Mm-hmm.
because I'm just like, to me, I felt like it was a waste of time. Because I wanted at that point I knew I wanted to be an entrepreneur. All I wanted to do was music. If I could have it, that's all that I would do.
So
Because
music
that's
is your
my
passion.
true love.
Gotcha.
Right.
Gotcha.
But music don't always
Yeah.
pay the bills.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you grow up and realize. But yeah, so back to the delivery company. So when I looked at the daycare, it was just like, oh, the liability there. It's a lot dealing with kids. You know, it's almost like, okay, you could have 2 kids eating lunch. One kid is allergic to peanut butter. The other one has a peanut butter sandwich. And you know, kids, sometimes they want to share whatever
right.
they give the other kid. And then they have allergic reaction. And then who gets sued?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Something as simple as that. Or
Right.
somebody touching, one of your staff touching the kids or beating the kid. You know, you can't control anything, you know, that you have no
But that's
control
all it
over.
takes. It
But
doesn't take much to.
yeah. And I just saw that more of a liability. So I was just like, no, even though I knew there was good money there. And then there was the delivery company. And so I looked at the liability there and it wasn't, you know, as high as the other business. So I said, let me go there. So that's how that came about. So once I looked at that and I'm just like, okay, well, that's pretty steady. You could do it. However, you want to do it in a week or 7 days a week. I was just like, okay, that's the direction I'm going to go. So I'm pretty confident that if I do that, then I should be able to leave. And that's exactly what happened.
Okay. So when did you make that transition? Like, was it kind of like a couple months into it? Was it a year into doing the delivery company? When did you finally kind of make that transition to it full time?
So March of 2016 is when I started the company.
Okay.
And then by June or July of that year, I left my job.
Wow.
So did you
I
start
had
with
it
just
planned, though.
one truck, or like when you jumped into this trucking company, you know, did you have a mentor first, or did you watch YouTube videos? Like what education did you do to kind of prepare yourself for this market?
I just got online, you know. I didn't have a mentor, no.
Okay.
Yeah, I just got online to see what it was like. I mean, I knew you had to go out there and talk to people, you know, network to try to get the business. And that's what I did.
Okay.
You know, I looked, you know, you could go on Craigslist at the time or whatever and see if anybody needed deliveries or, you know, see if other logistic companies needed help with deliveries as contractors. So that's pretty much what I did. You know, it's a mixture of doing that and then a mixture of me also going door to door.
So did you need your CDL, or are these like box trucks? Like,
Oh, no, I started small.
Okay.
So
Okay.
this was the thing. I was just like, I don't want to fail on a big scale.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
and waste too much money. Like
Yeah.
I'm very strategic.
Okay.
So I was just like, I'm going to start small. And if I can't manage it on a small level, I'm not going to be able to do it on a big level. But I
Gotcha.
want to do it on a smaller level and waste less money than the other way around. You know? So I started with a cargo van and like a hatchback I think it was like a Chrysler hatchback, PT Cruiser,
Oh, really?
and a car. So
Yeah.
it was 3
Yeah.
vehicles literally.
Getting out the mud.
Getting it out the mud.
Got to get started somewhere.
Right. So I was like, start small, take baby steps, because that's what
Mhm.
I believe in.
Mhm.
And build your way up. Because in the process, you learn.
Mhm.
You learn a lot to get to the next level. And that's what it's about.
Right.
Mhm.
So going door to door, what did you encounter? Because I mean, now that we're in a day and age of the internet, a lot of
Mhm.
people don't really do door to door anymore. So kind of going door to door, what kind of things did you learn as far as what people were looking for that maybe you were to go back and say, maybe I should add this to my business? Did you kind of take anything from, like I said, going door to door that kind of helped you build your business as well?
Um, I would say,
Kind of like surveying in a way, kind of
um,
learning
it's just
experience.
something. I mean, there's nothing that you do that's guaranteed. You
Mhm.
know what I mean? So, either people gonna mess with you or they not. Um, I I'm somebody that's really big on presentation anyway. So when
Okay.
I'm going to these people, I'm going with already having my website up, telling them they
Okay.
can check it out, going in with a capability statement,
Mhm.
um, and just being able just to sell the business, being able to talk about it because I
Mhm.
do it. And either they're gonna work with you or they're not.
Mhm.
So I didn't really have much problems with that. I just didn't.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay. So now you said you got a cargo van,
Mhm.
PT Cruiser.
Mhm.
What color was the PT Cruiser? It
Black.
was black. Okay. I see PT Cruiser just
They old now. I don't even think
Yeah.
they make them anymore,
no. I
right?
either think of
Nah.
that or that Chevy HR. They look the same. They both look the same.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, really, really unique look to them.
Right. Funny looking
But it gets the job
vehicles.
done. Got the job done.
Right. It
Wa-
was
Was
good.
that your everyday car, or you just picked up because you?
No,
Okay.
I brought it for the delivery
Okay.
company.
He's like,
I
it's
gotta be
typically,
creative. I
yeah.
took the
Yeah.
seats out.
Mm.
It
Oh
was
wow.
good.
You took the back
Tossed
seats
them out.
out.
Yeah,
Need the
it's
space.
flat in the back.
Wow.
Nice little room. You'd
So
be
it was a legit
surprised.
hearse at that point then,
It
because that's
was.
what the PT Cruiser reminds me.
Yeah, no, but it was good for that.
Uh-huh.
So
Mhm.
what type of deliveries were you doing with the PT Cruiser?
So doing flower deliveries,
Mhm.
Okay.
doing catering orders, doing some medical deliveries,
Mm.
stats,
Which one
and
was the
just
most lucrative?
believe it or not,
Let me guess the medical.
flowers.
Really?
Flowers. Wow.
I thought the medical was
Yeah, I would
I
think that
couldn't
was some
believe how
medical.
much money was in flowers. It was unbelievable
It's around Valentine's Day.
in
Yes.
general.
In general, really.
So
Yeah,
you're
especially then because there's
Yeah.
overflow, right?
Yeah.
Speak, but
so you were having throughout the year an abundance of flower deliveries.
yeah, I
Well, I
was
guess you
doing
think of you
about
got weddings, you got
30 to
memorial
40
services.
flowers, sometimes 50 flowers a day. And then
Wow.
doing, all these other deliveries in between.
Okay.
But this is the thing. It's bulk, right? So you're
Okay.
getting paid per delivery,
Okay.
right? And it adds up, right?
Okay.
So if you're getting $15 per delivery, you do the math.
Mhm.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. Adds up quick.
Nice.
And you're getting that
Yeah. Every day.
every day.
Now, were you delivering just kind of like to close, like local business? Were you going venturing further out into the rural side of town?
Local.
Mostly local. So how
Yeah, all
far,
of
like
that was
the
local.
radius, like maybe within 30 minutes,
30 minutes of
like from
from
Radius.
pickup
pickup.
location.
Yes.
So it was most of the times, so we would probably pick up in Maryland a lot of times for the flower deliveries. And they will probably be going within a 20 to 25-mile radius.
Okay, so it's not bad.
Would you venture in DC a little bit too then?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were you fond of that? The city
Who
driving?
likes DC?
Yeah, no. Right? Especially you delivering, you gotta find parking.
You
Yeah.
can't find
And
parking,
then you get a
but you
ticket,
get
that
real
take-
creative. I mean, got quite a few tickets
Yeah.
because
And that eats
what are
into
you gonna
your-
do?
Yeah.
But I had to get real creative.
Mm-hmm.
Throwing on them hazards,
Yeah,
trying to park
yeah.
somewhere it's not so conspicuous. You know what I mean? Just you get creative,
Okay.
making up some signs, putting it in the dash.
Yeah.
What type of sign did you make up?
On delivery.
on the
Yeah, get
And
your
it
point
worked.
across.
Sometimes
it
it
worked.
didn't,
Right.
but you know,
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
what you
what are you
gotta
gonna?
do.
Yeah,
It's
do
the
what you,
nature of
yeah.
the business. I mean,
Right.
it wasn't to the point that we were getting tickets every day.
Mm-hmm.
If that was, then
It wouldn't even be worth going into the city at all. Then.
right,
Yeah.
right. But yeah.
So
So I mean, and then you had the meter. So if that was there, just pay it
right.
because it's worth it.
Right. So okay, so now the business kind of going now.
Mm-hmm.
And when do you get to that stage where you felt like it's time to expand, where I need other drivers and I need a home-based location, the office?
Mm-hmm.
Because you said that you left your job in July 2016.
Mm-hmm.
So kind of tie into like, okay, now we're here.
Mm-hmm.
We're going full time.
Mm-hmm.
What's going through your mind as you jumped out there to do this full time? Was there fear? Was there family support behind you, or were you kind of just on your own and just kind of figuring it out?
So I was just figuring it out.
Okay.
And as I go, um, it was difficult financially because I started with two drivers,
Okay.
out the bat. So I
Oh,
had
straight
two
out the bat.
people that
Okay.
I had to pay.
Yeah.
You know,
Ooh.
so it wasn't just me
Yeah.
starting.
Okay.
So we were all driving the vehicle.
Okay.
The three of us, and sometimes you didn't make the money to pay yourself.
Mhm.
Because
You
you had
know
to
what I
make sure they
mean?
got paid.
Make sure
Yeah.
they get paid or whatever,
Take care of
gas,
the
all your
vehicle.
expenses that you have.
Okay.
And starting a new business is not easy.
No.
So things came up, repairs, used vehicles, and all
Mhm.
these things I learned for later.
Mm-hmm.
That certain things I don't do anymore because of learning in the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean, I had one of the drivers get into a very bad accident
Mm.
6 months in. I think I was telling you, and he flipped over on 95,
Wow.
totaled the vehicle, almost got paralyzed
Wow.
on his spine, right? He was like this close. And I was just so happy that I didn't get sued.
So
That was like I didn't want nothing to happen to
Yeah.
him.
Right.
But this was also somebody that was almost like a little brother to me.
yeah.
So that relationship just totally
Yeah.
dissolved.
How's his recovery?
I don't know. We don't talk.
Okay.
But during that time, he was going to be okay. You know what
Okay.
I mean? Just a little fracture or something like that. But
But why did the relationship dissolve? But obviously it was an accident. It wasn't your
well,
fault.
no, it wasn't my
It's-
fault. And he couldn't come back to sue me because basically what he told the police is that he was veering off from hitting a deer.
Mm.
Okay.
I don't believe it,
Mm.
but
Yeah.
that's what he says.
Yeah.
He was already given problems prior.
Okay.
You know what I mean? And so it was just like some of my clients were having issues with him.
Okay.
Mhm.
And I wanted to let him go before this happened.
Mm-hmm.
But my mom was just like, "Oh, he's like your little brother. It's just he left his job to work for you." I'm like, "But I didn't tell him to do that." You know what I mean? That was his choice.
Mm-hmm.
So
But it's just one of those things where it's just like this happened. He had put in his 2 weeks notice, and 2 days before his last day, this happened.
was this a learning lesson to you to kind of take feelings out of being in the business? Because if you would have gotten rid of him beforehand, this probably wouldn't have happened.
It wouldn't have happened probably.
Your
right.
vehicle will still been operating.
Right.
So was this the learning lesson? Like, I need to take my feelings out of the business.
Yeah, not listen to people when it comes to certain things, and I guess that too, what you're saying. But also too, I no longer hire people I know.
Because you figured that decision would have been made a lot sooner if it wasn't a family or close friend. You would have just said, "Oh, I
there
need to
wouldn't
get rid
have
of them."
been so
They're
much
gone.
feelings there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because it wouldn't have been so personal.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to have to do that to anybody anyway.
Right.
But now I don't have that relationship with that person. That was more than what happened.
Yeah.
I'd rather have that relationship with him than it just be gone because of all of what happened. It wasn't worth it.
Yeah.
So to go through that again with somebody else, I would never do it again.
Wow.
So vehicle got flipped, totaled. Now you're down a vehicle, you're down revenue because you have one less driver. So
Right.
how did you pivot from there?
Oh man. I mean, it was hard because my auto insurance doubled.
Mm-hmm.
I had to take care of all his medical bills and all that stuff, pay him for the time that he couldn't work,
Ooh,
right?
Yeah.
Um,
You had to call the general for auto insurance, huh?
no, I stayed with the same company.
Okay.
I had Progressive Commercial,
Yeah.
still stayed with them, but it was high.
Yeah.
I couldn't pay myself for 6 months.
for
So
6
just
months,
imagine working,
and you're not,
okay? And you're not getting paid. Everything is going to bills.
you're just
Breaking
trying to
even.
keep the ship afloat and whatnot.
Yeah, just keeping the business going.
6 months.
6 months.
So okay, so for 6 months, there's no money. You got to make sure everything else is paid. You're going home with no money in your pocket
No
for
money.
half a year.
Yeah.
How are you managing that? I mean, I'm pretty sure you probably saved some money, but that still has to be. Even if you save money, that's still hard. That's still tough.
Right. The savings couldn't carry that. Because remember, you're starting a business, so
Right.
it's like you dumped a lot of money in, right? I mean,
yeah.
I didn't dump all the money in, but I'm just saying, it's just like, so even as you're going, you're not always making enough to pay what you want to pay
What you wanna
yourself.
pay,
So
yeah.
then you're taking away from that money you save, right?
Right.
And eventually the money's gone. So it's just like, well, on the side, I had to do Uber and Lyft.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
Here, there, between deliveries, like just to be able to pay my bills.
Mhm.
That's what I had to do.
So now, so basically, you have to spend the same amount of time operating your business, but on the side, I gotta find other time, whether it's my personal time after I close shop for the day, to go make my own
Well,
money.
I was doing it in between, like weaving
Oh.
in between. I get
In
up
between
early in the
deliveries.
morning,
No
like
downtime.
get up,
Yeah.
then go pick up a delivery, then done, get back at it, like
So,
wherever I could get it in to
so
make
how
whatever I
early would you
needed.
start your day then? And when would you normally kind of end your
Sometimes
day?
5 o'clock in the morning, sometimes 6 in the morning,
Mm.
and sometimes I could be going to 6, 7.
Mm. See, I think people glamorize being an entrepreneur of like,
Yeah.
oh, it's beautiful on that side. I get to
They
make
only
my
see
own
the
hours up.
spoils of
But you end up
victory.
working more hours as an entrepreneur than working the 9 to 5. Because like right there, you say I'm working 12 hours and I'm just breaking even.
And that's nothing.
And that's a standard day, right?
But
Could be,
that
yeah.
in that 6 month span, did that also, once that was over, once you got to the point where you started feeling like things were leveling back out again, did you also think like, okay, I went through that for 6 months, but if I can go through something like that, I'm ready for the next level. Like on the flip side, yeah, it was terrible to go through it, but it made me a better person personally, and it also made me a better business person. I have more hustle in me now. So did you kind of take that away from it? Like if I can go through
No,
that,
not then. Later now.
Oh, wow, there's
I mean,
another-
and not like right now,
another
but
level, another devil.
some years later, thinking about it,
Mhm.
I didn't think about it then.
Okay.
After the 6 months passed of going through that, I didn't think about it like that.
Okay.
I was just like, man, this is difficult, but
Yeah.
I'm just like, I got to keep going. Like I said that this is what I want to do. I got to see it through.
Because you in
But
the
a
midst
lot
of
of
the
people
storm.
would have folded.
Yeah, you in the midst of the storm at that point.
And a lot of people feel like, oh, well, I don't want to do anything else, right? My business. And I hear a lot of people talk like that. And I'm just like, I'm always trying to preach to other entrepreneurs, like, have something on backup because things usually don't work out the way you plan. If I could be honest, almost everything about my life, for the most part, has not worked out in a way that I imagine it.
So what mentally kept you sound? Because like most people, like you said, will fold in and say, man, you know what? Screw this business. I'm selling everything. I'm going to go get a 9 to 5. So what
Right.
stopped you from backtracking?
Because I didn't want to work for anybody.
Gotcha.
And I was firm on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I said, when I left, I said, I don't want to go back ever again.
So
And
you
I
were
meant it.
Yeah.
and then that you mentioned that, I think because I can relate to what you're saying. Like
Right.
I've thank God I've never been in a situation where I haven't been able to pay myself, but I think once you get a taste of working for yourself and seeing the type of money you can make, but also having that what they call time freedom, where you make your own schedule and stuff, it could be extremely difficult
Mm-hmm.
to just say I'm gonna go back to having someone tell me when to work.
Right.
That's extreme. It's almost an ego thing where it's like it's hard to get out of that,
Right. Right.
So
Right.
even the fact that you weren't getting paid for 6 months, you're still like, I'm still not going back
Right.
to 9 to 5.
Right. And that's a strong person, man.
Mm. So going back to this situation again, vehicle got flipped over.
Mm-hmm.
6 months not being able to pay yourself because your insurance is now double, triple,
Mm-hmm.
expenses are higher.
Mm-hmm.
How did you get yourself out this storm? Like what was the pivot point where you say, okay, now I can take home some money?
More storms was coming.
storm?
More storms.
More
So more
storms
storms
was
came
coming.
before that.
After that,
After
Oh,
that.
no, okay, but to get out of that though.
to get out of
Yeah,
all the storms.
No, just that storm.
The
How did you
insurance.
get
That
out of that
storm?
storm? Yeah, that storm as far as not being able to pay yourself for the 6 months.
Well, no, I told you the Uber and Lyft
Mhm.
thing.
Okay.
So just did that. And I pretty much just kept that here there. I wasn't doing it as much,
Okay.
but where need be, because I saw that business wasn't
Yeah.
flowing to where it needed to flow at times.
Okay.
I always kept that on the side.
So the business really, before it actually got to the point where you was able to take money home from the business again, there was another storm that came before that?
There was another storm that came after.
Right after.
Not right after,
But
but
after.
after.
Got it.
Yeah.
Wow.
So-
Before we get to that storm, though. So at this point, though, kind of within this first storm, how many, you still have 2 drivers, including yourself?
Well, one now, right?
Well,
Or just the one?
I have the one, and then it's me.
Okay.
And that was it.
Okay. And same vehicles?
Except for the one that got totaled.
Right. Okay.
So now it's 2.
Just 2 vehicles.
And that was the PT Cruiser.
PT Cruiser got total.
Dang.
Yeah.
Come on, man.
I was mad too,
Yeah.
man. Because I like
And-
that little thing.
Yeah.
Took the seats out and everything.
Yeah, nice little getup. 1,500. Can't beat it.
So you said it was a PT Cruiser, and what was the other vehicle?
The
cargo van.
I had a cargo van, a
Mm.
Ford Transit,
Mm.
2012 cargo van, and then I had I don't know what year that was, but I had a Volkswagen Passat.
Okay. So were all these vehicles doing the flowers and the medical deliveries?
Yeah,
Okay.
we was
Wow.
getting it in.
Yeah.
So when did you eventually well, let's get to the next storm that happened first. What was this next storm that was brewing?
So someone hit me from the back and totaled the the Volkswagen
Man.
while I was doing Uber
Mm.
with 2 people in the vehicle.
Oh no. Like, I just can't win.
So now we down one.
Wow.
vehicle.
One car. Now, did those people in the Uber, they tried to sue or
Mm-mm.
nothing? No, but nobody was hurt or anything like that.
Yeah, my neck was messed up for a while.
Wow.
Now just thinking that, I'm like, I remember what that felt like. So the stiffness of hitting my head too hard,
Mhm.
on the back of the seat, the headrest.
Airbags
They same thing with them. Yeah, it deployed.
Mm.
So now you're down to one vehicle. You still have the other driver. So how do you manage? Is it like, oh, well,
Shift work.
yeah, shift work.
So now basically I'm using a rental
Mm.
Using
because
a
it wasn't
rental.
my
Okay.
fault, right?
Okay.
So the insurance company, I told them they need to provide me with a rental. So they did, and asked for pain and suffering. Like I dealt with that myself.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
In the past, I've used attorneys, but I learned the game. Just do it myself. Cut you out, get all the money.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So after this ordeal, were you able to go out and get another vehicle for the company at some point?
Yeah. So eventually, what happened exactly? I had to let that driver go,
Okay.
and then it was just me.
Just you. Wow.
Back to
Like a
square
solo.
one.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Because that was all what was gonna be left. That
Mhm.
vehicle started giving issues.
Mm-hmm.
The
And
cargo van.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I just the driver wanted more. He wanted to be full time. I couldn't make him full time.
Okay.
Because it just wasn't enough business at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So what happened was that cargo van just kept messing up. kept taking it places. They couldn't figure it out. So I traded it in for something else. And there was only one vehicle. And I could not afford to keep that driver. You know what I mean? So I gave him like a week or two notice. But he
So
was already looking for something.
okay, right, because he wanted more money.
But
So
this was also somebody I knew.
oh, another person. Okay.
So I started with two people I knew. And the
Okay.
relationships has not been the same.
And you're really like
But
that.
him, not as bad, but it hasn't been the same.
Yeah, but you're the kind of like, no, I need to have people that I'm not personally connected with
Right.
going forward.
And I never did it
So
again.
you're kind of back at square one as far as it just you operating the business. So how did you retool going forward in your mind? Did you say, okay, I got to do things this way now? Like, I just need to go out here and put myself out there more so I can build up more business so I can have that second driver again. So where did you go from there after this second storm? What was your next move?
I was just for a long time trying to figure out what I was gonna do. It just I
Was you
just
thinking about
remember
giving up?
no,
Okay.
that
You
was
still had
not a
some
thought.
you still had some fight in you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just didn't know. You know what I mean? And I'm just going and just trying to figure it out. And um then eventually the pandemic is about to-
No
Major
break. The storms of all storms.
Blindside now.
Right.
Tsunami.
So I was dealing with contractors, here, there.
Okay.
I was doing that more so than having my own, staff directly. And that was working here, there. Of course, you have problems any direction you go, but that was cool. So of course you're a contractor, you got to drive your own vehicle and all that good stuff. So that was less pressure. So I did that for a while, but like I said, eventually here comes COVID, and that was just another storm that came.
But before that storm got there, I know everybody had kind of been hearing a couple months before about this COVID thing.
Right.
But no, nobody really took it serious. Just like if it's something that comes, it's gonna be like what we had, like swine flu.
Right.
And so when it did come and they announced the shutdowns, what went off in your mind? What was crossing through your minds when they announced the shutdown? Did you like, oh, this might just be 2 weeks? Yeah, it's gonna hurt, but it's just gonna be 2 weeks and we'll be open again. But then to find out this thing isn't going anywhere, did you have like a talk in the mirror type situation where it's like we got to figure this out, like we got to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I was crying, and I don't remember at what point, but when I saw that all the places that I had contracts with, like literally all the business I had at the time that was coming about, they were not operating
Okay.
because they had to be shut down.
So did you
And
get like emails from them or phone calls?
phone calls.
Wow.
Yeah. And it was just like, well, what am I going to do?
So literally just business just going out the window and
Yeah, everything I was doing.
everything.
Gone.
Wow.
So you still have Uber and Lyft here, there that you would do. And even that dried up.
Yeah.
Right? Because people were scared and wouldn't get in people's vehicles, and that wasn't even safe to do, right? You didn't know what this thing really was, and I didn't want to mix of that carrying people and catching this thing.
Right.
So it was just like, I remember I was at a shopping center and I was in my vehicle. I was crying. I'm just like, what am I going to do? Like, I've been able to build myself after all these storms happen, finally, even though it was just me and, these contractors, was able to get myself to a point, I really wanted to live in a luxury apartment, move there, but rent crazy expensive.
Yeah.
And
you were in a luxury apartment at the time?
Yeah. I'm like, I can't catch a break. I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm going to pay this high rent by myself. I'm like, then I got the business. I just cried in my car. I'm like, what am I going to do, man? So it's like, this sounds like a movie, right? Like, people won't believe it, right? But it was just like, I'm like, I got to do something.
It's the ugly side of entrepreneurship.
Right.
That
It's not really glamorous.
people don't really show.
They see everything on the outside, but they don't know. And these are all the things that make me stronger. You know what I mean? All these obstacles, as you said, it's making me strong and stronger and stronger.
Right.
And I can appreciate it today.
Right.
But
right.
going through it,
During the storm,
nah.
right? Yeah. Once you're on the other side of the storm. So going now, the pandemic is here. Obviously, it was here a lot longer than we were told.
Right.
So how are you, navigating? Were you at the time able to get one of the loans that they were offering to kind of keep the business open and going? And then were you able to expand during the pandemic
Right.
with these resources?
Right. So luckily for me, all of my businesses, the music company and the delivery company was able to get money.
Okay.
So, a lot of people weren't able to get that money because, they weren't operating properly. And as long as you were operating and paying taxes and it was a legitimate business, you could have gotten the money. So yeah, and I got grants. I even got grants for my music company, like crazy.
Yeah.
I got like a $5,000 grant for a music company. And so it was just like, yeah, so I was able to get money and I didn't realize how much money I could get. I didn't know until later and it was too late. It's like, I could have got
You
all
missed
that.
out on some.
You could have got some more.
So much.
Oh, really? Yeah.
It was like 100,000.
You could have got way more.
Yeah,
Wow.
an extra 100,000. I didn't know.
Extra.
That's some mean oversight right there.
Yeah.
And then I tried to get it, but it was too late. Like they shut it down.
Oh man.
Because I didn't really it was kind of complicated. It was a lot,
Yeah, it was.
lot of paperwork. It was just like, oh my, it was so convoluted.
Right.
But yeah, so I was able to get that money and thank God. I mean, that helped me so much. You know what I mean? If it wasn't for that, I would have probably had to go back and work for somebody because at that time, like, a lot of businesses was taking a beating from that. You know what I mean? Lots. Big and small businesses, But yeah, so I was able to get some of the money and then I was just like, well, this is not what I wanted to do now, but this is what I'm going to need to do because these bigger vehicles where I wanted to eventually get to, they don't seem to ever have a problem with work, all this stuff that we were in need of, paper towels or whatever, like being transported on pallets. They got to get where they're going. They coming on the plane, they get on a boat, they got to get in the truck, they got to get where they're going. So I'm just like, okay, so I guess since I have a little extra money now, I'll go.
You got to shoot high, aim high now.
Right.
Yeah.
So you got a box truck. Is that what you went for?
Box truck, and Sprinter vans.
Okay.
So yeah, so that's pretty much what I did. I started with one, which was the 26-foot box truck. And that was a lot. I mean, it was so expensive to get in. I was just like, oh my God, like what is going on? The money pretty much was gone.
So what are some
Just with
expenses
that.
with the box truck?
Huh?
What are some expenses with the box truck?
Outside
of just paying for the truck itself, but what else?
Right.
With it?
So you got to get an authority, right? So that's through the Department of Transportation. You can't haul without this authority, right? So it's almost like a license.
Is it because of the size of the truck? What is the requirement? Like if it's over this side, what is that?
10,000 pounds.
10,000 pounds, then you have to get an authority.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you got to get a DOT number, and then you got to get an MC number. So the DOT number allows you to haul intrastate, right? Which is like local. So wherever your business is registered to, that's local. So how my business is in Maryland, DC is not local. Virginia is not local. So though for us, we look at that as being local, it's not.
So your place of business could literally be on the border of Maryland and DC, but that would not. It's not.
No, you cross state lines. It's now interstate.
Interstate. Okay.
So interstate is local, and interstate is, yeah. So to have an MC number, that's doing interstate.
Okay.
So, of course I had to have both. But yeah, so that's basically what it is. So you pay for that. And then there's all these regulations surrounded by that. You got to get the insurance and all these different types of insurance. And, you
Everybody
have,
just taking your money.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking about thousands and thousands of dollars.
What type of insurances and why these various insurances?
So it's required by a lot of the people that you haul for.
Okay.
Like, so for instance, we haul, one of the major companies we haul for is Amazon.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So Amazon requires you to have, a certain level of workers' compensation,
Mhm.
a certain level of liability coverage,
Mhm.
certain level of auto coverage.
Mhm.
So it's a lot of different things that they require you to have.
Okay.
And, even other companies that you haul for, like they want to see that. The cargo coverage as well. Depending on who you haul for will depend on what you need.
Mhm.
However, there is an industry standard. So the industry standard is $1 million and then 2 million aggregate. And then like $1 million and then another 2 million aggregate for liability.
For liability. Okay.
And the workers' comp is like 500,000.
Okay.
But yeah, so it's a lot of coverage, and
Yeah.
cargo coverage standard, unless you're like hauling cars, where if you're hauling like luxury vehicles, it got to be maybe 250 on up.
Mhm.
But for me, the cargo coverage is 100,000.
100,000.
So it makes it very expensive. I know my policy when I started with those other vehicles, I guess everything combined was like 2,000 something dollars.
Okay.
And then the down payment was like $3,000.
So now you got.
And so the down payment,
This is
now
crazy.
keep this in mind, the down payment doesn't take down your insurance. That's just what you got to pay basically just to get the
upfront,
coverage.
just to get the coverage.
Yeah.
Wow. So you have a lot of overhead now. You got all these
Lot of
insurances.
overhead. I mean, the workers' comp was
Yeah.
like 1,000 a month. I mean, when I'm talking about money and people don't want to talk, to people getting into this stuff, if they knew, they would just like
Right.
lose
Yeah.
their mind.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that when somebody talks about the revenue that is made from a business such as yours, they're like, oh, that's a lot of money, but they don't account for the expenses
Right.
that have to be whether it's the employees, the different types of insurance, incidentals,
Yeah.
that come up. There's a lot that goes into these businesses that you don't take all this money home,
Right. And those repairs.
Yeah.
That's a big one.
Mm-hmm.
Let me touch on that a little bit. So
Okay.
I had an incident. I don't know, maybe this was a year ago or maybe 8 months ago. So the 26-foot box truck, the air brakes. Try to release it and the air would just not stop. And I'm just like, what is going on? Kept playing with it and it's like, okay. So I got a lot of stuff that needs to happen, go out, and
Yeah.
gotta
We
go
gotta
to
get it
PA. Like
Mm.
the office
Oh.
right now. I'm just like, are you serious? You can't move the vehicle.
Mhm.
If you can't disengage the brakes, you can't move it.
Mm-hmm.
So even though it was running, didn't matter. So I call up, one of my mobile mechanics and I'm explaining to him and he's just like, oh, we'll do this. And he's just like, oh, maybe it's your air brake chambers, but I got to come and check it out. I said, okay, well, when can you get here? It's like, oh, maybe tonight or tomorrow. And I'm like,
I gotta
oh,
get this stuff going now.
right.
Yeah.
So I'm just like, oh, okay. So I get on and so back in the day, earlier on, years before, I wouldn't have known to move like this, but there's so much at stake, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you're on these levels, like nobody wants to hear that you can't get the job done.
Right.
Like you will lose business,
Yeah.
right? This is big
Yeah.
business. You
Did
know
you
what I
ever
mean?
think about going to U-Haul and renting one of those? in
Well,
the
yeah.
meantime?
Well, so I called Enterprise to see if they
Mhm.
had a vehicle. And they didn't have any. I called Budget. Budget didn't have any.
Mm.
Called Penske. Penske had one. Okay. So I'm like, okay, well, can you guys hold it for me? Like, I'll pay for it now.
Mm.
It was just like, Okay, sure, we'll do the reservations. It's gonna be like 500 a day plus mileage. And I'm like,
Hmm.
okay. They're just like, you're gonna need a $5,000
What?
deposit. I said, okay. And they were just like, and we need that in the form of a cashier's check. And I said, why can I just put it on the card? Like,
Yeah.
they were just like, no, we don't do that anymore. It needs to be a cashier's check. That's the only way.
Okay.
So it's like 3:15 at this point, right? My bank, with my, account for the trucking company, I could not get there. The closest bank was probably like 45 minutes away. This is now during rush hour.
Mhm.
I'm not going to make it.
Mhm.
So I'm just like, just thinking, and then I'm like, oh, well, my music company's account, that bank is only like 10 minutes from here.
Okay.
Luckily, I don't live on the edge.
Mm.
I was able to pull the $5,000 cashier's check from my music company.
Wow.
Just imagine that,
Yeah.
right? And so it was in my music company's name. So I got there and I explained, I'm like, shouldn't matter. The money's still here, but it's not in my trucking company because da 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 da. They didn't care. They was like, okay, no problem, Miss Richards. But yeah, that whole thing, it was just like I ended up being late to pick up that load, but it was fine. Got it done. But yeah, that whole rental for 3 days was like $2,000. After the fees they put on you, was like, that was expensive.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Ate into your profit,
Right. And the guy with fixing the vehicle, he was just like, there were so many problems. He's like, oh, the tools I need, it's just I don't have it. And I'm just like, okay,
I don't want to hear all
well,
that. But
can I tow it somewhere? Like, whatever. He was just like, do you know how much a tow is? I'm like, maybe $2,000. So he's just like, well, that's a lot of money. I said, I don't care. I need this vehicle
Yeah.
worked on. You know what I mean? Because
You lose
the
money every
longer
day.
I wait and this is not operable, it's costing me more money than this.
Exactly.
And he was just like, oh, okay. He was like, well, I know a guy that can bring the tools. He's a tools man that he can bring it. It's going to cost like $400 on the weekend. I said, I don't care.
yeah, I just need it.
Make it happen.
Yeah.
Get him there. I'll pay him extra $100. I need it done, and I need it done by this day if it's possible. Like I'll pay whatever. I don't care. Get it done.
So what was the outcome there?
He got it done Sunday. He said he was going to get it done. They were out there all day, but it got done, and you know what I mean. It was all good. But yeah, I mean, that whole ordeal with the repair and everything, that was almost like $10,000. So when people just say they want to get in this industry, a lot of people don't have money to just
Yeah.
and
5,000.
I had to build up. Like trucking has made me so strong. If I think I was going through anything with these smaller vehicles, no.
Yeah, big
This
truck,
level?
big truck, big problem.
Big problems. You know what I mean? So, again, all these things are making me stronger, and like it would really have to be something catastrophic at this point to take me out, with this business stuff, because I'm just like, I feel like I've been through so much.
Yeah.
And now
you're
when
deeply
certain things
invested.
happen, it's just like, oh, okay, well, it's not a big deal. I
Yeah.
take care of it. You know what I mean?
Used to dealing with problems, being a problem solver. So it's part of your territory now.
Yeah.